Hi, I'm Kim, taking you through the stories people are talking about and sharing around the world on NewsFeed today. Is genetically modifying unborn babies unethical? Maybe not, according to a key UK bioethics body. We take a look at just what that could mean. Standing up for the right to sit down, why women in India will now be allowed to sit down on the job. And taking dad dancing to the next level, Obama gets down in Kenya. If you could stop your unborn child from ever getting cancer or a hereditary disease like cystic fibrosis, would you? What about going one step further, like making sure your child was, say, tall or athletically gifted or had a certain IQ? These are questions an ethics body in the UK wants us to seriously consider, having put out a controversial report suggesting that we open ourselves to the idea of editing human DNA. But what would that mean, not just for the edited generation, but for every generation that comes after? It's been the stuff of sci-fi for eons, a superior human race made possible by the editing of human DNA. And while the 1997 flick Gattaca played out the worst-case scenario, an oppressed underclass of people versus a genetically engineered generation, a leading ethics body in the UK says, in real life, the technology may not be all bad. The Nuffield Council on Bioethics has released a report stating editing a human embryo could be morally permissible if it's used to correct genetic faults which benefit the offspring. That could mean editing out a predisposition to cancer or hereditary disease. The council does, however, seem to understand the fears that sci-fis capitalise on, pointing out that the technology should not increase disadvantage, discrimination or division in society. Opponents fear editing human DNA will lead to designer babies, opening the floodgates to an unknown future. Well, I'm joined now by Julian Sabulescu. He's the director of the Oxford Uhiro Centre for Practical Ethics and who researches the ethics of new and emerging technologies, including genetic testing and enhancement. He's the perfect man to have on the show. Thanks so much for joining us. First off, why do you think it's the morally right thing to do, continuing down this line of research?
Well, there are no cures for diseases like cystic fibrosis or thalassemia, and these are devastating diseases which kill people in their 20s or 30s. So we have an obligation to find cures for these diseases, and the ultimate cure for genetic diseases is actually correcting the genetic defect which is causing them.
What do you make then of the concerns that it could lead to designer babies or even going further? I know this is a long way, but to an underclass of unedited people. What do you make of those concerns?
Well, it definitely could. We can misuse any technology, so it's really up to us to decide what laws we put in place. You could clone human beings today by splitting a human embryo. You could also use this technology today to create a genetically modified person, but laws are present to prevent those sorts of uses of technology, and they've been very effective. So I think it's not a slippery slope to designer babies. It's a set of steps, and we can decide how many steps we go down.
What sort of potential do you think this technology has in the positive sense? What's the best case scenario here?
Well, the best case scenario is correcting the disposition to common diseases like cancer or Alzheimer's disease or diabetes, radically prolonging life, creating immunity to infections without the need for vaccination, but more importantly, correcting natural inequality. Not only are some people born with terrible diseases, people are born with disadvantages that mean that they have fewer opportunities in life. So you mentioned intelligence is one area where you need an IQ of 95 to complete a tax return in the US. That means nearly 50% of people are lacking the ability to participate in modern society. And this could be a way of correcting inequality as well as increasing it, depending on how we use the technology.
Do you, at the very least, understand the ethical concerns of the opponents who have suggested that things like Down syndrome might therefore be wiped out?
Well, Down syndrome is already being drastically reduced without gene editing. It's being reduced by screening of pregnancies and termination of pregnancy or selecting embryos without Down syndrome. So that problem already, exists. And the solution isn't to ban screening of pregnancies for Down syndrome or the selection of embryos or prenatal testing. It's to ensure that we enable people to make their own choices and in fact support the choices that people do make to have children with disabilities and give those children the best opportunities they can have.
Certainly an interesting time in the world of DNA testing. In India, women who work in retail are not allowed to sit down. You heard right. That means for a 12 or 14-hour shift, the law says they can have a 30-minute lunch break. And that's it. No perching, leaning or squatting allowed. But a major push from one women's union in the state of Kerala will finally give at least some of these ladies a small reprieve. Here's Naya.
Imagine being able to sit down during your working hours or go to the washroom unannounced. These are small freedoms that you and I take for granted, but something that thousands and thousands of women in Kerala's textile shops were being penalized for, at least until earlier this week. Now, a new law has been brought in that guarantees them better and humane working conditions. It guarantees them the right to sit. And this is a story that has garnered a lot of reaction on social media. Rohini here saying women working in the textile sales departments in Kerala have won a long and hard fight for the right to sit, to take breaks, to take toilet breaks. And she's asking, should these issues have even needed a fight, especially in this day and age, especially in a rapidly developing country like India? Saurav Datta here is also welcoming this progressive move by the Kerala government, saying Kerala's women have achieved victory in the long struggle for the right to sit during working hours. And he's saying, hope male-dominated establishments don't use this as an excuse to recruit lesser number of women. That's a valid fear that many experts have also voiced on this story. Rakesh Nandan Sahai is now pitching for this to be expanded to a law that's applied to the entire country. He's saying it's unfortunate that this is an entire issue that requires a relook as far as the entire country is concerned, and this is needed for the welfare of the unorganized sector in the country. And lastly, you've got Salam, who's voicing a similar opinion. He's saying, will other states follow Kerala's move to uphold retail sector employees' right to sit? And that's really the big question. Will the other states in the country also modify their laws to ensure that textile workers have better working conditions?
Children in Gaza are in the midst of a mental health crisis, and it's no wonder. An 11-year-old, for example, will have already witnessed 3 wars, as well as numerous other bombing campaigns over the years by the Israeli military. A group of Palestinian kids with their own YouTube channel captured really the essence of what that means when their recording was interrupted. Take a look.
ستارز أنا سما وأنا لين واليوم رجعنا لكم فيديو جديد هو تحدي الدوم الحار مع أخونا وليد. طبعا أخونا وليد راح يشارك معنا بالأبدومن. بس قبل ما نبدأ لا تنسوا اللايك والشير.
Let's take a look now at what else is trending on social media. The hashtag Treason Summit took off on Monday after Donald Trump appeared to defend Vladimir Putin over accusations of election meddling. Calling the FBI's investigation a disaster, Trump said he saw no reason why Russia would do such a thing. Dictionary.com then came in with another one of its sick burns, chucking out the definition for patriot and traitor. But the best of all came from the Chris Evans thread. Evans, the actor who plays Captain America, blasted Trump, saying he should be ashamed of himself. Cue the requests for Chris to suit up and sort the situation out. Online retail giant Amazon is having a seriously bad day on the launch of Prime Day. That's their 36-hour discount bonanza and a chance to clear old stock. Their website started to glitch. Some customers have been completely locked out, unable to buy anything at all. The ad world in Pakistan appears to be finally getting on board the equality train with this stellar piece from Shan Spices. In it, a young man needs to prove himself to his future brother-in-laws, so he takes to the kitchen. The hashtag One Biryani, One Family is taken off, with users happy to see a man in the kitchen. Far-right activist Tommy Robinson is right now behind bars, but controversy continues to follow him across the globe. This time, it's over accusations that an ambassador to the US president has been in touch with groups protesting Robinson's imprisonment and may have even tried to put a little pressure on UK officials.
This book is the reason. This book is the reason we're in such a mess. No. That's a reality.
The Supreme Court in India is recommending a new law be passed specifically regarding how to punish lynch mobs. Dozens of people have been killed in the past few months after WhatsApp messages were passed around targeting child kidnappers. Crowds of people then gathered together to lynch the suspected perpetrator, although at least some of the time the WhatsApp messages were wrong. Emojis have come a long way since the days of semicolon, bracket, smiley face. In fact, to be 100% correct, those were emoticons, and only an image can truly constitute an emoji. But however you describe them, they're a language unto their own. And to mark International Emoji Day, our vocabulary is about to expand.
I'm an emoji. I've got to have some sort of purpose here.
I love a bit of emoji diversity. Now, you may have heard of the dad bod, but how about the dad dance, especially one featuring former US President Barack Obama? This is about as dad dance as it gets. Obama busts out these sweet moves at the opening of his half-sister's sports and vocational training centre in Kenya, but then he gets a little self-conscious and sits back down, preferring the less showy dad dance, which is sort of a bum shuffle clap along. That's all from the NewsFeed team. You'll find us 24/7 on Twitter, YouTube and Facebook. We'll see you tomorrow.